All right. My name is Eric. I'm excited to talk about my company, Dance, today. It's an e-bike subscription service. Our mission is to inspire movement and together move us all towards the livable city. And I'll get into all of that in just a minute. We see three massive waves today happening. The first one is that e-bikes are taking over cities by storm. This is an exponential trend. There's no stopping this wave anymore. I think in a couple of years you're going to see mostly e-bikes in pretty much all cities. And they're replacing all of regular bikes at this point. Cities are leaning into this transformation in a big way. Paris in Europe is leading the way. If you've been to Paris recently, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. Paris is full of e-bikes, and it's turning into the next Amsterdam. And there are many other cities that are following suit here. Last but not least, there's a whole generation of people who prefer to subscribe to products and services versus owning things. And we think e-bikes is one of the next big categories to capitalize, let's say, on this trend. Why e-bikes? So e-bikes are faster, better, greener versus pretty much any other way to get around the city today. They turn out to be the fastest way. Many studies show that at this point. And they're also better, specifically better versus regular bikes. You can get much faster from A to B, you don't sweat, but an e-bike is also a vastly more advanced vehicle versus a regular bike. It's packed with technology, it's connected, it has sensing, connectivity, all of this kind of good stuff that you get with electrifying the bike. So it's really a completely new transformational vehicle versus the bike. And last but not least, it's much greener, especially compared to electric cars. So an average electric car battery is on the order of 200 times bigger than an electric battery or a battery in an electric bike. But there are still some friction points associated with e-bike ownership. If you go and buy an e-bike today, you're looking at a pretty expensive price tag, north of 3,000 euros in Germany today. And there's quite a lot of selection. It's a bit of an overwhelming purchase decision, can be nerve-wracking. And once you own one of these things, you now own a complex electric vehicle that needs servicing, regular maintenance, and you have the issue of theft. So I've never been a car owner, but I've always owned a bike. Growing up in Stockholm, I had several bikes, some of which got stolen. And then the last 15 plus years I'm in Berlin. Never ever have I had a great servicing experience or a good experience around theft with bikes. That problem is 10x worse with e-bikes, because now you have a vehicle that's an advanced electric vehicle, needs special competency, sometimes special parts that takes weeks or even months for them to get delivered. So the service experience is typically terrible for e-bikes. And there is one solution out there which is called sharing. So I've been a huge fan of the sharing mobility services that popped up over the last 5 years. But the fact of the matter is, if you stand on a street corner in Berlin or in Paris today and you look at the bikes go by, only about 10–15% of them are going to be shared bikes. Why is that? These sharing networks are super expensive to operate, it's very complex, and so ultimately they're quite expensive for the consumer. And if I have to open an app every morning I go to work and find the e-bike, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And then when I'm riding this thing, sometimes it breaks down in the middle of the street. And it's a heavy-duty tank-like vehicle. Most people just sort of put those two things together and end up having their own bike. So we thought about all of these things and we created Dance. Dance is a full-service e-bike subscription that takes the friction out of ownership, leaving the joy and the movement of the ride to you. So it's kind of like streaming a bike, which is what I used to do in my previous life with streaming music and SoundClouds. We had millions of subscribers. Now you're subscribing to a piece of hardware with the services, all of that. And it's everything you would expect from a modern subscription service, from the brand to the first touch points to onboarding to the app to the hardware itself, which we custom built for this very purpose, and the service layer and how we orchestrate all of these things together to create a mind-blowing customer experience. Our NPS score is around 65 to 70 on any given month. All of that for 59 euros a month. That's if you lock in for a year. It's about 79 euros if you go on a monthly flex plan. why could this be a big business? Well, if you look at bikes in Europe today, there's somewhere between 50 and 100 million people riding bikes today in Europe alone on a very regular basis. That's an expanding pie, and it's all going to e-bikes. We think that one of the most meaningful pillars of expansion here is going to be subscription. There will be millions of subscribers to e-bikes in the next decade. We intend to lead the category. If you look at Dance at 1 million members, you're looking at a very substantial business with very healthy margins. We will keep investing in hardware, software. We'll have significant scale benefits on the local level, on the global level. We'll invest to build a category-defining brand. And last but not least, we'll have a significant data asset. We already today, after 1.5 years of launching this, we have millions of kilometers in our database. So we have one of the best data sets for the cities where we operate. We're currently in 5 cities. We launched 1.5 years ago. We're over 10,000 members now. We're becoming one of the largest fleet operators in Paris very quickly. And so we're very excited about this and the trend that we're seeing. And we intend to be in many more cities over the years to come. We built our own bike. When we started in 2020, we had actually a pilot with hundreds of customers on the street in Berlin. We had some really big learnings from that. We thought that, us coming from brand software, subscription, we thought we could just, get away with basically using someone else's vehicle. Turns out that there's so many issues with many of the vehicles that are out there. And so we had to actually go and think first principles and build the right vehicle for this purpose. So we took all of the best technology from sharing and put it into a form factor that ended up being a gorgeous, easy-to-use vehicle that lasts a long time. For us, it's about total cost of ownership because we run the whole fleet, we operate the whole fleet. And of course, it's about the customer experience. So we have a removable battery, we have a very nice way to put your phone on the bike to turn our app into a ride dashboard. And we have a number of other aspects that are intended to serve our customers in the best possible way. And we are iterating on this, and we have data points around every single repair, every single customer interaction with over 10,000 members at this point. I mentioned that subscription will be the fastest growing pillar of the micromobility industry over the next decade. Others agree with that, so this was a study from BCG that came out last year. They arrived at the same conclusion. Last but not least, our company is an impact company, fundamentally. This is a big decarbonization story for cities, but it's also a story around making cities more livable. So it's about things like noise pollution, air pollution, safety in cities, and just pure livability in cities. If you've ever been to Amsterdam or Copenhagen, or now increasingly Paris, you will know what I'm talking about. Well, there's one more slide there. Just on the carbon story alone, if you imagine removing 5% of the world's cars by 2030, we're cutting gigatons of carbon emissions by doing that. I'll end with this quote by Jan Eliasson from the UN. Cities are where the battle for sustainable development will be won or lost if we fail. We intend to make a meaningful contribution to this development in cities with dance. Thank you so much.